Hey there, I'm Nicole King. I'm the broker owner of 41 Realty Group in Billings, Montana. Back again with Ian Ullman with Guaranteed Rate. Today we're talking inspections. So there are, every buy-sell is long in Montana. It's currently 10 pages long. And there are two spots that talk about inspections. And it is often confusing when I have to explain to a buyer what is happening at each stage. So there's the home inspection, and then there's the appraisal inspection. You're only involved really in one of those. I'm involved in one heavily and partially in the other. Talk about the one that you're involved in.
So the appraisal inspection, which is much more on the lender side of things, the appraisal is ordered through the lender. So we have a roster of approved appraisers. They are their own business people. They run their own businesses. So they submit scope of work to local lending institutions or whoever lends in the state to try to get onto that rotation. So there's a due diligence there. It's not like we just sign anybody up.
Right. So they have to be qualified appraisers.
Qualified appraisers, licensed, all those things. And then, so we order through our side. The appraiser's function for us is a decent scope of things, but primarily it's valuation of the home and safety and structural. So within valuation comes conversations around their job is to look at size, age, bedrooms, bathrooms, garage stalls, swimming pools, all of the things that come with houses. And to say, based on comparable sales recently in the market of these similar features, similar amenities, what's this home worth? And then on the safety structural side, the main things there are anything that can negatively impact safety. And structurally, the big thing is exposure to elements that we see a lot. So, for the prime example on the FHA appraisal is the peeling paint conversation. But for the most part, safety and structural, we see more often call-outs like broken deck planks on a patio, or missing ones even, broken or cracked windows. Those things fall into that safety realm where an appraiser will call that out, and that will have to be remedied prior to us being able to close the transaction.
And the appraiser will have to go and verify that it's been remedied.
Correct, And another one, I don't want to say it out loud in Montana, but hail damaged roofs.
Yes. No more hailstorms, please.
So that's the main things around what the appraisal inspection is and does for us as the lender.
And on my side of it, the appraisal happens after the home inspection. We want it to always happen after the home inspection. I'll talk about why in just a moment. But also, the appraiser is only there 15 minutes or so. So they're doing things like flipping on and off switches, testing a couple of faucets, peeking in the attic, peeking in the crawl space, depending on what type of loan it is, to verify the things that loan requires, that kind of stuff. So 15 minutes in a house, they're not going to see all the things that a home inspector does. So on the other side is the home inspection. So both have the word inspection in it, but one is paid, well, both are paid for by the buyer, but one is purchased by the buyer. They are qualified inspectors. They do also have to have licensure and stuff like that, but the lender is not involved in that side of it, and we really don't want you guys involved in it. And there's a couple of reasons that we want for the home inspection to occur prior to the appraisal. First of all, the home inspector spends about 3 hours going through every millimeter of that house. Inside, outside, everything. They have run those faucets for a long time. They've flushed all the toilets, they have crawled in the crawl space, and they have looked with flashlights and
thermal and all sorts
imaging,
of stuff.
All sorts of things, scoping the sewer lines, sometimes running radon tests, doing all the things that a buyer's hired them to do. And we want that really, really thorough look at that house before an appraiser comes over. Because once the appraiser has visited the property, that buyer is on the hook for the appraisal cost, regardless of whether they buy that house or not. So then they're in for a whole round of things. So we want that house to have passed a home inspection, which is cheaper than an appraisal, prior to an appraiser going over, to make sure also that anything that might get called out by an appraiser, so if there's cracked and peeling paint, broken window panes, missing handrails, we see a lot, that kind of stuff is all going to get called out by a home inspector before an appraiser ever goes over. Nothing about the home inspection makes it back to the lender, or we try not to have it come back to you, because we do not want that transaction getting tripped up by underwriting to have them verify that all these repairs and things, that negotiation really needs to happen regarding what repairs are going to happen from the home inspection. That negotiation needs to stay between the buyer and the seller through their agents and not involve the underwriter.
Right.
If we send those documents or that information over to a lender, your underwriter is going to say, oh, did you fix all these 100 things on here that maybe a buyer isn't going to want to fix in the first place, and the seller doesn't want to pay for all that repair.
Right, it more or less demands that we run that list, that report, everything in it through the filter of what the lending guideline requires for the subject property collateral, all those things.
Which is intense and could become very costly. It also could be very time consuming.
Right.
So we talked before about sort of time frames in a closing. If you're expecting to close in 30 to 45 days after you wrote that contract, and all of a sudden the underwriter has to verify a bunch of repairs, you could be out a few weeks even beyond that.
Right.
And
Yeah,
we don't want to involve that.
Right. Well, and two, as somebody who, right when I got into the business, actually was the same month I bought my home.
Oh, okay.
So I was a first-time home buyer when I became a first-time lender, 8 years ago.
Okay.
And our home inspector, one thing that I didn't even think about, because you don't know what you don't know, was that home inspection, when he went through that report with us, it really prepared us for what home ownership of that home is going to look like.
Yes. Yep.
You know, you have 12-inch paneled masonite siding from 1973 when this home is built. Needs to be scraped or sanded and repainted every X number of, and then as warping and weathering and caulking seams. And it really prepared us what to expect accurately, what home ownership would look like.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even know was a thing I had to think about. I just thought I got a house and everything was great.
But the house is just, you're going to live in it and no repairs.
Yeah, because my folks never repaired anything growing up, I don't think. It was all just perfect, I bet.
Yes, didn't involve my kids in it. So that is actually a very fair point. So after that 3 hours in the house that the home inspector spends, so not the appraiser but the home inspector, they meet with a buyer for, usually it's about an hour. On the day of the inspection, the buyer goes over to the house, meets with the inspector, and gets to see all the things that the inspector found and really fully understand what they are purchasing and what it's going to take to maintain or improve if they're thinking of making improvements. They just get a real good baseline for, this is the current condition of the property and here's all the things that you need to do for maintenance and improvements. So two very different purposes, right?
Both serve their purpose very well.
Yes, and both generally need to happen in the transaction.
Right.
So making very sure that you're working with your lender and your real estate professional to plan those out. Like I said, we want that home inspection to occur prior to the appraisal. We want to make sure the lender knows, hey, we're done with the home inspection side, go ahead and get that appraiser over there. All that kind of stuff needs to occur. So really good communication across the board with all the parties involved.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video.